name is Jill Greenbaum, and parents often ask me, on the journey to find the colleges that are the best fit, who plays what roles? Let's dig deeper into that question of who will work on which tasks over the next year or so of this journey to find the colleges that are the best fit. And we hope that in doing this, that the college search becomes and remains an exciting adventure. So, when you start to assess all the steps in the process, what are some that you might do with your teen? What will you do together? You can brainstorm about your teen's interests, strengths, and maybe even essay topics for those college applications. There will be several. You might help your teen imagine life at college. Where does she want to go? How large a school does your teen want? What type of setting is of interest to your son? In addition, talking about finances this early in the process is really critically important because you want to have a sense of where to look. Although you don't want to cut off all the possibilities, meaning the higher end possibilities too early, because oftentimes small private liberal arts colleges will give more in financial aid or in scholarships than some of the larger settings. So it's good to know, though, what the ballpark is. In addition, visiting colleges. Talk about how that's going to take place. Will your teen head out on his own? Will you accompany your daughter? What are your plans and what are your teen's plans, and how are you going to make those come together? It's important to remember that visiting colleges is also a step on that road to independence, and so it might be the kind of thing that it might be time for your daughter to head out on her own, or for your son to do the same. In addition, creating a timeline with milestones is a great step because that way your teen can start to develop some project management skills, and this is a huge project. You might be helpful in practicing for interviews, and if that's something that you're comfortable with and can do well and help your teen with in a very constructive and supportive way. And then lastly, towards the end of the process, talking through final choices. When your teen has been admitted to several different colleges, the question becomes, where will he or she go? And that's when you can listen to their thought process. So those are key things that you can do together. In addition, you as a parent will do some things on your own, and that will largely center around finances and filling out the financial paperwork. Right? So that's a piece where your teen might be a part of the conversation, and yet you'll do most of the heavy lifting on that. What your teen needs to do on his or her own includes test preparation and testing, so the SATs, the SAT-2s, and perhaps the ACT. In addition, completing the applications, and I know that sounds kind of crazy, but there are parents that help their teens complete the applications. That doesn't help our teen take responsibility, so it's important that they complete applications on their own. Writing the essays. Well, you might help brainstorm ideas, you might do some proofreading, editing, or really making significant changes or making big suggestions isn't really going to be helpful to your teen and represent what he or she is and his or her abilities to the admissions committee. Of course, your teen will be doing interviews on his or her own, that's important, we know that, and getting those letters of recommendation. You might help in the conversation of deciding who might be good around asking for letters of recommendation, but your teen will set that process into play. Wow, I've just named over a dozen different things that you and your teen need to take responsibility for, alone or together. And so all of these require planning, preparation, and completion, and these are just the highlights. Perhaps the first question becomes then, before you consider any of these, where do we as a family begin? And so I think taking stock of these 4 questions will be really helpful. What do you and your teen know about the college search and selection process? What do you need to know and learn? What questions and concerns do you have? And what are your planning and completion skills? Are they up to par, or do they need a little strengthening? So here are a few last questions to answer about this dance you engage in with your teen. How have you worked with your teen in the past when she or he had to make a big decision and engage in the huge process that leads up to that big decision? What has been your teen's style and role, and yours? Is there room for growth in that relationship? And how will you plan for that? And so I hope that in focusing on these first steps of the journey for the next year provides the foundation for starting the conversations with your teen. Come to my website, www.jill.com. www.majorinu.com for more answers to the questions I hear from parents and teens. See you in the next video.